Tonight on To The Point, why Governor Newsom's push to cut costs could leave more than 100,000 Californians without Medi-Cal coverage.
It's terrifying that we would be taking a step back in disability rights.
What the governor's office is saying tonight, plus President Trump's big, beautiful bill.
Anybody that didn't support it as a Republican, I would consider to be a fool.
What's now at stake as a key vote hangs in the balance. After securing a rate hike last week, State Farm is asking for another increase, how much it could cost homeowners, and COVID vaccines. Tonight, why many may not be able to get another shot this fall. Good evening. As always, thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Tens of thousands of low-income seniors and Californians with disabilities could lose Medi-Cal coverage due to a proposal in Governor Gavin Newsom's budget revision. ABC 10's Becca Hobbecker joins us in studio to explain what's really at stake. And Becca, you caught up with advocates just this week who are really urging lawmakers to reject this proposal.
Yeah, you know, Alex, Governor Newsom wants to reinstate something called the asset test to determine eligibility for Medi-Cal and in-home supportive services for low-income seniors and Californians with disabilities. Now, disability rights advocates say this came as a shock last week, and now they're scrambling to advocate for their health care coverage. Elizabeth Gesamburu of Stanislaus County is talking with lawmakers this week.
I stopped into Joe Patterson's office, Don Addis's office.
She's advocating for herself and all Californians with disabilities who are on the Medi-Cal and in-home supportive services or IHSS programs, asking legislators to reject a provision in the state's budget proposal.
They don't want to see a step backward either, so that is encouraging.
She's talking about a cost-cutting proposal Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled last week in his May revision of the budget. It would reinstate something called the asset test.
It kept us in poverty. It kept us as second-class citizens.
For decades, a single person couldn't have more than $2,000 in assets. For a couple, the limit was $3,000. That limit did not include the value of a primary home, vehicle, or retirement fund, but did include things like a regular savings account, cash, and a second vehicle. Starting in 2024, the asset test was eliminated, and more than 100,000 newly eligible seniors and Californians with disabilities enrolled in Medi-Cal.
It was such a step forward for us to get rid of that asset test, and now to see it in the budget revision is heartbreaking. It's terrifying that we would be taking a step back in disability rights.
Governor Newsom argues the influx of enrollees costs the state more money than anticipated. His revised budget says reinstating the asset test for both Medi-Cal and IHSS eligibility would provide estimated general fund savings of $94 million this coming fiscal year, $540 million the next, and $791 million annually thereafter.
It's unjust and it's cruel.
Advocate Julia Feinberg lives in Oakland and says returning to that strict test is unrealistic.
If I get $1 over $2,000, I lose everything. And it is incredibly challenging to get that back. And in the meantime, I have to pay out of pocket for the caregivers that were taken away from me. So I'm going to go into debt because I wasn't allowed to save.
Mohammed Rashid of Modesto says the proposal threatens his health care too.
I'm feeling anxious and stressed out.
At an Assembly subcommittee hearing Monday, members questioned the director of the state's Department of Health Care Services.
Where are people going to go when they no longer qualify and can't afford this care on their own?
Individuals would lose access to Medi-Cal and would have to find other means to support the needs that they might have.
I think this is going to lead to more homelessness of seniors and the disabled, and that's what's going to happen, and that will cost our state money too.
In response, the governor's office tells ABC 10, in part, under Governor Newsom's leadership, California became the first state to offer full-scope Medi-Cal to all low-income adults. But because of the $16 billion Trump slump and higher-than-expected health care utilization, the state must take difficult but necessary steps to ensure fiscal stability and preserve the long-term viability of Medi-Cal for all Californians. We will continue to work with the legislature to review budget alternatives that achieve a balanced budget for both this year and in the future. The change would go into effect starting next year. Now, advocates have less than a month to convince state lawmakers. The legislature is required to pass a finalized budget by June 15th. Alex.
All right, Becca, thank you. And Governor Newsom has proposed 2 other possible cuts to Medi-Cal in the budget. One would stop enrolling low-income immigrants without legal status starting in 2026 and begin charging those already enrolled a monthly premium the following year. Another proposal would redirect $1.6 billion from Prop 35 to help offset the state's budget shortfall. Voters approved Prop 35 in November with the promise of increasing Medi-Cal doctors' pay and also reproductive care. New tonight, President Donald Trump has announced the concept for a Golden Dome missile defense program. Trump says the multi-layered $175 billion system is expected to be fully operational before the end of his term. Golden Dome is envisioned to include ground and space-based capabilities that are able to detect and stop missiles at all 4 major stages of a potential attack. Trump has requested an initial $25 billion for the program in his proposed tax break bill. President Donald Trump today called out Democratic governors, including Governor Gavin Newsom, and it comes as lawmakers are debating state and local tax deductions known as SALT in ongoing budget negotiations. Lawmakers from New York, California, and New Jersey rejected a GOP offer to raise the deduction cap from $10,000 to $30,000 for married couples, saying that it doesn't go far enough. And without a deal, the cap expires at the end of the year. Trump said that he doesn't want the bill to benefit blue states, arguing that aid should go to Republican-led states instead.
We don't want to benefit Democrat governors, although I would do that if it made it better, but they don't know what they're doing. Let's say Gavin Newsom, who's done a horrible job in California. We want to benefit we want to benefit Republicans because they are the ones that are going to make America great again.
President Trump is trying to rally House Republicans to support his One Big Beautiful Bill. The legislation includes major tax breaks, but would also slash hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid. The proposal is facing some major pushback. I want to bring in Perry Russum, who's in Washington, with the latest.
President Trump on Capitol Hill today pressuring the House Republicans holding out on voting for his One Big Beautiful Bill.
Anybody that didn't support it as a Republican, I would consider to be a fool.
The bill would pay for major tax breaks by cutting hundreds of billions of dollars to Medicaid, which Trump promised he would not do. Trump meeting today with lawmakers behind closed doors. A source in the room telling ABC News Trump said, "Don't expletive around with Medicaid." Trump says he wants to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse from Medicaid, but did not provide any evidence it exists.
I said waste, fraud, and abuse for Medicaid. If you find waste or fraud or abuse, we want to strengthen Medicaid.
The proposed Medicaid cuts dividing Republicans, some wanting the cuts to come faster and be steeper. Congressman Ralph Norman is one of 4 Republicans who voted no on Friday, later changing their votes to present yesterday, meaning they did not vote in favor or against, allowing the bill to pass through the House Budget Committee.
Are you a yes right now? Where are you?
He did a great job. We'll see.
A vote on the bill could happen as soon as tomorrow.
This is all about massive, huge tax breaks to billionaires, paid for by stealing from working Americans.
And we asked local Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley today whether he supports Trump's bill in its current form and what he's pushing for as negotiations continue. So here's what he had to say.
That I'm trying to shape the legislation as best I can in accordance with what's best for my constituents, and I'll make a judgment at the time that we have a final text as to whether it will get my support. I will say with respect to Medicaid, of course, I've been one of the people leading the fight to protect Medicaid, and you will not see Medicaid cuts in this bill.
If the bill passes the House this week, it would then move to the Senate, where Republicans are also eyeing changes. Still out onto the point, State Farm is asking for another rate hike. Why and how much it could cost homeowners.
It was a hot day today, upper 80s, low 90s. Tomorrow we start off in the 50s, but the afternoon will be even warmer. I'm tracking low to mid 90s. The peak of the heat and forecast after the break.
Plus a health warning, whooping cough cases are on the rise. What's driving the surge and who's most at risk? Welcome back. Let's take a live look over Kings Beach tonight. Another beautiful and warm day across the region. Let's bring in meteorologist Brendan Minchev joining us tonight with a look at our forecast.
Yeah, it's going to get even warmer for tomorrow. The peak of the heat before it actually kind of mellows out a little bit through the weekend. Not all that far from seasonal for the long weekend, but then I'm tracking a big warm up next week. Upper 80s and low 90s is what we made it into today. 89 Sacramento, 91 in Stockton, 87 Modesto, 82 Jackson, 77 Placerville, and near 70 up in the high country. Currently 84 in Elk Grove, 87 in Sacramento, 87 Stockton, 87 Manteca, 86 in Modesto, 82 Vacaville, 82 in Fairfield. Temperatures similar to where we were at this time yesterday in Sacramento, though a couple degrees warmer than just 24 hours ago. The A's game, first pitch in just under half an hour, about 85 degrees for first pitch, 80 degrees towards 8 o'clock. And then as we're looking towards the final out, we're going to be in those low 70s. Again, that'll be about 10 o'clock. By Wednesday morning, we're going to start off in those low to mid 50s, clear and mild. The average low is 53, so about where we should be to start Wednesday. But then Wednesday afternoon is going to be very warm. I've got 93 in Sacramento, 93 Stockton, 93 in Modesto, 96 up in Colusa, 88 in Angels Camp, 82 Placerville, 82 Nevada City, 72 in Truckee, 70 in South Lake Tahoe. We're going to be very close to the hottest we've been so far this year. 94 is what we made it to May 9th and May 10th, hottest days so far this year. But again, tomorrow, not that far off, low to mid 90s. High pressure builds in a little bit in the next couple of days, but just kind of keeps on moving. By the time we get to Friday, we're going to see a little system passing to the north. That's going to send temperatures back down into the low 80s and a slow warm up through the holiday weekend. By Monday or Tuesday, high pressure starts to build in the Great Basin, and then it just kind of sits there through next week. And by the time we get towards the end of May and start of June, we could be seeing high pressure right overhead, maybe the first heat dome of the summer. This is going to send temperatures climbing. We are going to be in those upper 90s, potentially into the low triple digits as well. It's something I'm looking out for at the end of next week. But I think importantly, the long weekend coming up, I've got mid to upper 80s for Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. Next on To the Point, testimony begins in the murder trial of former MLB player Daniel Serafini. What was said in front of the jury just today, plus big changes to the COVID vaccine policy, why many may not be able to get another shot this fall. In day 2 of the murder trial of former Major League Baseball player Daniel Serafini, jurors saw evidence and heard witness testimony in the case. The 51-year-old is accused of murdering his 70-year-old father-in-law, Gary Spoor, and the attempted murder of his wife, Wendy Wood, at their Homewood home back in 2021. Now, no cameras were allowed in court. At least 5 witnesses took the stand today. They included officials who responded to the scene of the shooting back in June of 2021. They described the bloody aftermath and their attempts to save the couple's lives. Each witness was also asked if they remembered a bag of dog food near the kitchen area upstairs and whether or not it was open and if there was kibble on the floor. Its significance has yet to be discussed. Jurors will have the day off tomorrow, but they will return on Thursday and Friday to hear more testimony. Once again, the announcement comes 1 week after California's insurance commissioner approved the company's request to increase premiums as high as 38%. Reporter Stephanie Sierra has the details.
Starting in June, State Farm will raise insurance premiums by 17% for California homeowners. If this latest request is granted, the company could push that figure as high as 30% by next year. Meanwhile, California condo owners and renters will face a 15% increase this June. But this latest request could raise that figure next year to 36% for condos and 52% for renters.
This is a real issue. The company hasn't produced the documents it needs to show that these rates are justified, and yet they're getting the rate hike anyway. And now they want more. That's just greedy. It's just plain greedy.
Consumer Watchdog is the only group fighting the rate hikes, arguing policyholders should not have to pay for State Farm's mismanagement.
I don't think the commissioner has answered that. I think he's just giving in to whatever the company wants.
State Farm's latest request includes no change in the rate hikes for rental dwellings, which are policies that protect landlords who rent out their homes. Those properties will face a 38% rate hike this June that was approved earlier this month. The company responded saying the interim hike only addressed part of their needs, saying, quote, the overall request of 30% would not be on top of the 17% interim rate change. State Farm General is still pursuing the full rate request. Last week, it was described as a critical first step to continue serving California customers.
They're not even saying that they're going to stay in the market and continue to sell after next year. So we're not getting anything.
None of these new figures are set in stone. All of them will have to be discussed during the next hearing, which is in October, where State Farm will be expected to justify these requests with data. And the To The Point team spent months digging into the insurance crisis, hearing from homeowners, Congress members, and the insurance commissioner about how we got to this point and what can be done to help. You can stream our Emmy-nominated special right now on the ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app. Well, Placer County is making it easier for first-time home buyers to enter the market. The Board of Supervisors just approved updated guidelines for the first-time home buyer program. The county will now offer up to $100,000 in down payment assistance. The new guidelines will extend to households earning up to 150% of the area median income. For a family of 4, that equates to an annual income of around $181,000. Eligible residents can also get a 30-year loan at a 3% interest rate and put down as little as 1%. The county will host an informational webinar on May 30th. We do have the information on our website over at abc10.com. Whooping cough is making a comeback, putting public health officials in Northern California on alert. The Centers for Disease Control reports 590 cases of whooping cough in California so far this year. That's more than what we saw in all of 2024. The Sacramento County Public Health Department reports more than 70 cases so far this year in the county. And on the UC Davis campus, Yolo County health officials reported 4 cases of whooping cough among college students.
We're certainly seeing more cases in California. Part of this is probably related to a hangover from COVID, from all the lockdowns, which really affected transmission of a lot of community-associated diseases. And then we had a buildup of susceptible people.
The Tdap vaccine is recommended to protect people from whooping cough. Dr. Blumberg says vaccination is key to protecting both adults and children. Annual COVID-19 shots for healthy younger adults and children will no longer be routinely approved under a new policy shift by the Trump administration. The FDA announced new guidelines today maintaining access for adults 65 plus, children, and younger at-risk adults. However, the agency is now urging companies to run larger, longer studies before vaccine approval for healthier adults. While it still supports annual shots for about 100 to 200 million people, it leaves questions about vaccine access for those who do not fit clearly in those high-risk groups. All right, stay with us. We're back after this break with a look at what we're working on for tomorrow. All throughout May, ABC 10 is celebrating Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And this year marks 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. And one of the most emotional chapters was Operation Baby Lift. The mission evacuated thousands of children from South Vietnam in the war's final days. And one of those children was Huyen Friedlander, who was adopted by a Sacramento family just before the fall of Saigon. Like many adoptees, she spent years grappling with her identity until a remarkable reunion decades later with her birth mother in Vietnam.
In my case, my birth mother learned about this opportunity. She wanted to leave with me, but that was not possible. And so she had a very short amount of time to decide whether she would hand me over or not, and she did.
That life-changing reunion was only possible thanks to a crucial decision by Huyen's adoptive father, who preserved key documents during the chaotic adoption. Today, she is now paying it forward. And tomorrow at 6:30, right here on To The Point, you're going to hear how she's helping other adoptees reconnect with their roots through DNA testing. As always, thank you so much for watching and always inviting us into your home. If you have something you think me and the team should be looking into, make sure to reach out to us at tothepoint@abc10.com. And our coverage does not end here. You can always watch stories or even full shows that you missed and you want to catch up on. Just download our free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app.